it looks like a very fast turnaround, pardon me. The Party Poker Live Millions UK main event feature table. These guys have just finished their dinner break, so they're going to come in and play the last 2 levels of the night. Those are 9k, 18k with the 18k ante, and then the 10k, 20k level. We will see Roberto there, rather colourfully dressed. I understand it was some sort of Twitter poll or whatnot, or bet, something that he lost. He had to wear what was voted.
Yeah, James, funnily enough, I was talking to Roberto a few hours ago when he was on a break, so he told me the full story. They did have a bet with a whole bunch of people, and he lost, yeah? So whoever was knocked out first, yeah? No, he lost. No, well, it's not as simple as that. It turned out that Sam Trickett was one of the people in the bet. And the bet was that whoever was first out of this tournament, they had to wear an outfit of the other's choice. But Sam Trickett never played. So I said, well, obviously he was out first if he never played. But Roberto, the nature of the man, he said, no, I want to do the right thing. And Sam was good enough, even though he should have worn the outfit. He was good enough, apparently, to play a major role in helping Roberto choose and fit the outfit. So, but I was also as well, Roberto has just had a couple of twins, 11 and a half weeks old, a boy and a girl, and he's chuffed. He is definitely one of those guys who always wanted to be a father. So he could not be happier at this moment. So let's see if he's going to play with a bit of the classic sports person's baby bounce. When you have that baby.
He went for the double the other day, playing the 25k on his birthday. So it didn't work for him there and got 2-outed on the river by Leon.
Well, sometimes with the baby, yeah, it takes a while for it to settle in.
Maybe it's the baby and the birthday on the same day. Maybe that's the confusion.
Yeah. That might be a bit much to ask, yeah. They might cancel each other out. Yeah, he told me he was he queens against jacks against Leon. Leon had the jack in the river, so.
That would be a bit of a brutal one, big part. Yeah, this table a lot more balanced in terms of chips.
I'm happy to be able to give you them.
Our players, Chris, a little bit of a low starting stack, 51 big still. Elliott, chip leader with 3 times the starting stack, 193 big blinds.
Now, what was that flag? I didn't recognize that flag.
I was just trying to work that out myself. I'm usually okay with flags, but
that one was very tricky. Oh, here he is, Roberto with the 2 monarchs.
The butchers in play. Pocket kings raises to 40k. Member blinds 9,000, 18,000. Comes around to David in the big blind. He will peel with ace deuce. These 2 going heads up then. Queen 7, 6, 2 clubs.
I think this hand will be over in short order.
Yeah, board Roberto's going a continuation bet on nearly all the time. Plenty of weaker hands can call, and there are draws out there. As Andy points out, you imagine David has to give up this ace high on this texture. He'll have far better hands to continue with. He does just that. But guys, I will be asking you a question shortly. If you know the answer, you better type it into the chat box. From the winning answers, the winning correct answers. We'll choose a winner, pardon me, from the correct answers. I'll get there eventually, Andy. If we draw your name, then you will win a 109 Party Poker Live satellite ticket. So do stay tuned. We'll be asking that question in the near future.
We'll give you a quick question now, just while you're waiting, to get your brain warmed up, just so you can answer questions right. And who is the character that Roberto Romanello is meant to be? And I'm going to give you a little clue. It's not somebody from Switzerland.
Chris under the gun, 35,000 pocket jacks. Roberto thinking about this one with the king 8 and, well, getting a little out of line here. A very small 3-bet against the under the gun open. Again, Andy, hard for Chris to 4-bet here, obviously, with jacks.
I suppose that's the advantage of raising someone whenever they're close in seat position to you. It looks extra kind of strong.
So yeah, Chris, of course, does make the call. So at least Roberto gets to see the flop with this, but up against a very strong hand here in Chris's pocket jacks. Queen, 6, deuce, all diamonds.
Now Roberto's definitely going to continue here. He's got close to very little showdown value.
He's gone for a bit of every colour. 133. Quick call from Chris. As you would expect with his pocket jacks. I feel Andy Roberto kind of just shuts down now with this hand, doesn't? You know, he might barrel with a diamond in his hand another time, but this one looks like one of those you're just going to have to give up on. Chris can, of course, flop to flush. He's raised under the gun, called a 3-bet. Some of his hands will be that. Some will be a queen. Few will be pocket pairs like the one he has. Very occasionally, you might just have the 8 of diamonds. Against that range, you don't really want to be barreling. As it happens, he's got one of the hands he can fold.
The only thing is now he may decide if it's checked into him to bet the diamond river.
Right, yeah, this is a card he can bluff now because a queen is now in a very tough spot, as would be that pocket pair, and even a low flop flush might want to fold here. So Roberto would be repping just the ace or king high flush when he bets here. Oh, the old check back when he knows he's got king 8 of hearts.
Roberto looking at his cards just to make sure he has the old diamond. I think he's going to bet around 300 and it's 300 something thousand, yeah.
375 I bet, and that should be the end of that. Very, very hard for Chris to call this bet.
He's definitely going to think about it. I mean, the reason why I think he's going to think about it is he did call really quick with the jacks, you know. So I've never seen him play before, but I feel like he's the kind of guy who's a bit sticky. And the other thing with this sizing, although it's good to get rid of a lot of hands, it does polarize Roberto's range to either the ace of diamonds, maybe the king of diamonds, or a hand that can't beat jacks.
Right, I mean, that's kind of a given, I think, when he bets this river. He's not really going to bet this with just a low diamond. I think he's always, you know, the sizing's always going to be around about this number.
You think so? With the 10 of diamonds, he's going to bet 375. I don't think so.
I think he might just check the 10 of diamonds back. We'll see. Oh, he does make the call.
What a great call.
Knows his man Roberto just doesn't even table his hand, kicks into the muck. Chris quite happy to turn over his call with jacks and no diamond.
Thank you.
Roberto thinks, well, I've chosen the wrong man here.
Well, I think he chose the wrong kind of. What I would have liked to see from Roberto, quite frankly, is if he was going to bet the flop, if he bet it a little bit smaller. He bet so much that the next bet was.
Yep.
It subsequently was bigger.
Yeah. I thought I had to. Gary Solomon's 79 big blinds, 1.25 million. Here is Gary, won't be playing that hand.
So it wasn't so much Roberto in that hand got the baby bounce, he got the dirty nappy.
Ryan from the cut-off pocket tens, he's going to raise. Looks like he gets that one through.
And tight enough fold from the big blind with 2 suited cards.
Yeah, again, this is obviously It seems all the studies have done show we're supposed to peel super wide from the big blind, with especially pretty much every suited combo. These trends don't always get as far as everywhere. Some people just like to fold these hands, and these are the kind of guys you want to be targeting when you are raising. Obviously, you see already pocket tens there, but if people are folding these hands, then it's going to be profitable to raise their blinds.
It's the second most profitable line. The most profitable one is the guys you tend to call but nearly always fold on the flop and don't do anything funny.
Right. the defend if we don't, even if you flop bottom pair,
defend
just check
and
fold.
die.
Yeah. Defend and check fold, defend and check fold. That would be obviously a far worse strategy.
But look, there is something to be said, particularly right at the beginning of these tournaments, that the difference in the mathematical thing is to call with those kind of hands, those two suited cards, particularly if they're connected. But there's also the other thing, which we talked about earlier, of people preserving chips, because there's a huge mathematical edge in somebody making a big mistake against you. So, it's an interesting dynamic between two competing ideas.
And look at this. Gary opens on again +1. Ryan 3-bets with 5-6 of spades. And after the early position raise, he does take that down. Again, and Gary with king jack off under the gun +1, opening that early position. You can't continue with king jack off against a 3-bet there.
Yeah.
How much is that?
Nice play.
Well, that's one of the reasons why it's maybe a bit light to open with king jack offsuit in that position, because you're going to face that situation a lot of the time. And of course, against nearly everyone else who called you, you're going to be out of position with a hand that really can flop brilliantly.
Right. Lee Pope, the man on the table we haven't seen up to now. 31 bigs. He's the shortest stack on this table.
Yeah, I was watching Lee earlier, and he seems, maybe quite an amateur player. The manner he folded was quite, uncomfortable, let's say. So, I mean, if I am sitting there at the table, I'm hopefully trying to make use of that.
Well, he's found a fine hand here. Queen, Jack of diamonds. That's going to get raised up.
Roberto is more of a defender, so he defends the 9-6 double suited.
He gets a 10-8 6-flop. This is a very interesting one here. Lee with 2 overs, a gut shot draw, backdoor diamonds. Roberto bottom pair and a gut shot draw himself. And albeit a flop that hits the big blind more often than the undergun +1 raiser, Lee is of course going to bet with that draw. Roberto with a pretty clear call here. No value in raising, you would have thought.
Yeah. So 9 is a complete disaster. 5 is a very interesting card. Obviously this hits Roberto's range.
Yeah, I think for that reason, Lee giving up on this one. Roberto, again, don't see much value in betting here, but he is reaching. He's gone very, very small, 16,000. In fact, that's not even a legal bet. He needs to make it 18.
Now, Roberto is almost old school. This is a particular bet that old school players who are kind of confident of their reads, and also, I can guarantee you, Roberto is only doing that if he's at least considering calling a raise. Yeah. So he's a good enough player that he has that tiny bet play in his armory, but he's not doing it without balancing the fact that he'd be looking out for someone maybe raising him, and he's not insta-folding.
Yeah, I mean, his opponent almost always just has 2 overs there. As you say, maybe trying to induce a bluff. The block bet.
And Juice is probably too strong.
Right, but he's prepared to call.
Yeah, he's prepared to consider that. You know, he's prepared to consider that. And you know, I imagine against it's the kind of play he's going to make against maybe someone who he thinks is a weaker amateur player, and he's really confident of his reads. Yeah, it's the first time we've seen our man with 3 million chips, Anthony.
Raising the button, Roberto. He's well up with 8-3 in the small. Gary, of course, defending Queen 7 from the big blind.
Yeah, the computer hand.
The middling hand, right?
Yeah, for years when I started playing poker 30 years ago, you know, before computers were invented, you know, people would just tell you, oh, that's the hand that wins the most often. And I remember when I first started, that made, I thought, geez, maybe that's right.
How many thousands did that cost you?
Yeah. I didn't have any thousands for it to cost me.
Anthony with a very small receiver on a broken board, as you would expect. 25 into a little over 100. And he points out is the man on this table with the most chips, 3 million. Everyone, of course, in the Millions events, as always, starting with 1 million chips. It's nice, Danny, to start a tournament with 1 million chips. You've already got 1 million.
Yeah, you feel kind of good about yourself.
It feels like you're doing well.
But definitely so far at this table, we've seen a very different dynamic than the last table. You know, guys re-raising second or third to speak with speculative hands. It looks like a lot of these guys have come here to play.
Yeah, and it's nice to see. I am making presumptions. I don't think, for example, that Ryan's just going to 3-bet Gary in that spot a minute ago with all his hands, but he just decided 5-6 a suit at this moment, this time, that player, I'm going to 3-bet him. It's not a case he's 3-betting with everything. He just decided this is the hand I'm going to do it. And you'll see, again, a bit of that when you don't have to be balanced. You can kind of read the table a bit more, the flow. It's not a case of players are just playing their hands when you're dealing with a non-elite field. It's, you know, some guy will be sat there going, well, I haven't played a hand for 3 orbits. If I raise now, they're going to believe me.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what you've got a kind of, how could you say, like a 100 meters dash image as opposed to, you know, 10,000 meters or marathon image.
No problem.
So again, that's really important, how you use that. Yeah, I mean, some of these tables can, if there's 1 or 2 kind of weak players at the table, or people that other people regard as weak, it can set off a cascade of action.
Yeah, it's amazing sometimes you see the perceived weak player just limps in or comes in with a small raise and sets off a chain reaction of wars behind.
I mean, it's not like the days of 5 or 6 years ago where often you'd find the war against exactly the same 2 players, because this was more in the days of more common 4 and 5 betting and 6 betting. And then what you'd find is, you know, there might be a couple of guys at the table who are prepared to do that, and no one else gets to play a hand.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not as kind of extreme as that now.
Well, this is an action board. Ryan flops top pair, top kicker from the big. Anthony checks back his king high and flush draw. That keeps the pot small.
This check back with the flush draw seems to be quite a common play now. I've always liked that. It's a disguised value. You know, even though you know your man might have a flush, you just sort of say to yourself, well, he can't really.
And also, of course, there's a good chance king high is ahead against the big blind. So you're not giving up that much equity if you check back and they catch a pair. It's pretty unlikely. And obviously, Ryan with a clear bet when check now. And now Anthony calls. You know he's most likely got something he wants to show down. So can bet pretty big on the river here. $192 in the pot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for checking here. I mean, if you can see the hands, you can maybe say that there's not too many draws out there.
Right, it's gone 130.
Ooh.
We'll see. Anthony with king high will fold that.
Well, Anthony's done well there for that pot to cost him so little. You know, by checking the flop, he's actually added a significant degree of disguise, and he's kept the pot pretty small.
Okay, this is how this table looks. It is Anthony out in front, 3 million. Roberto, just the good side of 2. Ryan, Chris, Gary, and David, all above that starting stack, but Johannes and Lee, your 2 shortest stacks. Although Lee, by far the shortest, but still 23 big blinds. No more danger yet.
Well, it's like the Olympic cycling all over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Great Britain.
And I just realised the blinds are still 8-16. Of course, we watched the previous table. They played their 8-16 whilst these guys were eating dinner. So, of course, we've rolled back to the level we were watching.
Level 8.
Becca and JP Kelly, etc.
Level 8's the last one, so this one 2 more.
Yeah.
There you go. The players just discussing the exact same thing.
Ah.
I did.
Oh, well.
At the end of level 7.
We'd watched an 8-16 level. That was the thing. They confused me.
Oh,
Of course.
Yeah, it's quite confusing.
These guys 8 through 8-16.
Finished relatively early, that's all right.
But because the blind levels are such a subtle raise, we're all right. Doesn't make too much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, dinner break doesn't need to be 1 hour.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
45 minutes, something else is fine.
Plus it was shit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Enjoyed.
No.
Mild expletive.
Well, look at this. Roberto in the hijack. 3 deuce offsuit. What is going on?
He came to play. Now.
David 8-4 clubs in the big. He calls. Well, 10, 6, 4, 2 hearts. Roberto, believe it or not, somehow has a gut shot straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. He will be able to deuce a heart up against David's bottom
Overpair.
Yeah,
He's got the overpair
David-
with the pair of 4s.
yeah, David in fantastic shape with a pair of 4s.
Very difficult for him to put Roberto in the deuce 3. Or the rat mouse, as it's called.
The what now?
The rat mouse.
The rat mouse.
The mouse is a 2 and the rat is a 3.
Okay, I learn something new every day.
Yeah, so if you had 2 2s, what would you have?
Well, I thought it was ducks, but
Pair of mice. I don't know. So they changed a lot of these names from what I mean, a lot of the original ones were better. You know?
David checks once more on the 6th turn. Roberto probably not going to win this one at showdown. So reaching for chips. Going big. 240. Well, this is a bit of a weird one because David has way more strong hands on this board than Roberto does, having peeled from the big blind. But he does give it up.
No, it's going to work. I think what added to that there was Roberto had virtually 0 showdown value, you know, and the fact that he's just had twins probably encouraged him to pick up some nappy money. You know? They're not
There's a
inexpensive.
chance I'd get in this one.
Just had I've now 2 children, 2, one who's 2 and one who's 3 months old myself. 53 years old.
Young.
That's what you get for
53 years
sleeping
young.
with younger women.
That's good value.
It's a tough life being Andy Black.
Good value.
Well, congratulations, Andy. Congratulations, Roberto. Of course, the gaffer himself, Rob Young, a new father as well.
That's right. I was talking to Rob. He was very happy. Yeah. A little bit confused he was about the fact that the breastfeeding is finished. But I understand that.
Gary looks down at ace-6 in the hijack.
But yeah, Roberto was, no, Rob was thrilled. Roberto was thrilled. Very thrilling thing to become a father for the first time. Now here we have a beautiful hand in the big blind for Johannes. Pretty sure he's going to raise here. I don't think he's going to get called.
Open to 32. Again, you're going to want to size up, rebetting out of the big blind.
He's got a lot of body language there. He had a big head move forward. The blinking is increased 500%. This is very polarized body language.
Polarized body language. Here we go.
Raise.
And doesn't make it. One chip to play. One of those blue chips worth 100k.
Gary looks like a man who's folding to me. I'll give you even money on a tenner, James.
He might fold as well. I'm gonna pass on that generous opportunity.
Generous possibility for an investment. Yeah, of course, Roberto's children, it's a much more balanced range than my children. He's got a boy and a girl, and I have 2 boys.
There we go. Some would say you won back-to-back flips. I don't know.
Yeah, not everyone is going to get a place on the Supreme Court, James.
Anyway.
Thank you some water.
It's keeping the conversation topical.
Gary does fold.
Yeah.
Do you think there are any poker players in the UK circuit that would pass the sort of fit and proper test to get a spot on the Supreme Court?
Oh, well.
Who could pass?
Oh, what a question. So are we going just somebody at this tournament?
Well, yeah, you know, the UK and Ireland poker scene for the last 20 years. Who
UK
could make
and
it?
Ireland poker scene.
Who's clean enough to make it onto the Supreme Court?
Well, I feel like in the present climate, you know, Devilfish might have stood a chance. But seeing as he's the dear departed, we miss him, definitely. Oh, now, back to the action. We're going to have a standard bet and call here. 350,000. The Ace-King's going to call, and we're going to be off to the races.
And it is a snap. As you see, Ace-King versus Jacks.
The old double-handed turnover with the Jacks usually decreases your chances of winning by about 10 or 15%.
Wow, that much?
I think so.
Wow. So Ace-King, a considerable favourite here. Ignore that graphic. Andy has informed us.
Yeah, don't let the flop deceive you.
Okay, 864, no use to Anthony.
Now look, I'll still give me 7-1 on a tenner.
King on the N.
There's a man.
Andy knows his onions. Lead to
But
parts.
I didn't get the tenner. I didn't get the tenner at 7-1. I gave you a little bit of extra equity, but you know.
Anthony.
So for those kids back at home that are watching this, if you do the 2-fingered turnover of your cards, you're reducing your equity by a mathematically examinable and definable 15 to 20%.
15 to 20. That's a lot of equity to be given up in an all-in situation. We have lost our first man at this feature table. But of course, should he choose to, does have the option to re-enter.
How many do you have? About 300. Fuck knows.
How many did he have? F knows.
He's not
I had
asking.
Ace-King, I'm calling.
How many? I thought he said to Roberto, how many do you have? And I was wondering whether he was asking how many children he had. But when Roberto went 300, I knew that wasn't the question.
You never know. Gary under the gun +1, ace, queen of clubs. This will be a raise.
Oh. Noticing the noise in the background, Gary was, well, sticking in a nice raise with ace queen suited. Now, if I was sitting there, I'd be very sure that Gary was pretty strong.
Also, the fact he's raising under the gun +1 does help.
Yeah, that too, but he was...
It's the pointing the noise out, yeah?
But I might think I'll be able to get him off the hand because he was over a bit, you know, a bit too chirpy with the old ace queen.
I've got a nice story about that. A few years ago, my brother came down to Brighton. He was staying with me. We went out drinking. He sort of said at 2, 3 in the morning, look, I want to go play some poker. You know, he doesn't. He started playing poker at the same time as I did, but you know, never took it as serious as I did. But he still enjoyed dabbling once in a while, and he hadn't played for a couple of years. And I said, okay, come on, we'll go down to a local casino. We'll play a game. And we sat there playing a 1-2 hold'em game. Gave him some money to play, and he's enjoying himself. And I was sat. We were sat next to each other, and the floorman pulled up a seat behind us, and I was just chatting to him about things to do with the poker room. My brother was in a pot, and he was on the turn, and he turned round and was a little drunk. Went, shh! I'm trying to think. Can you two shut up? I'm trying to think. We were in his ear, so I sort of looked up and paid attention. Anyway, he completed playing out this pot. At the moment he asked us to shut up because he's trying to think, was the point he was facing a £100 bet. He was holding quads in Texas Hold'em. It's a little strong. Somehow the other guy still jammed the river.
I mean, as funny as the story is, it does. I mean, in terms of rating people, you're looking for extreme action. Extreme action. It could be a story. It could be a movement. It could be something that stands out. And the moment that happens, you're invariably in polarized situations. They're either very weak or very strong. And going back to Phil Hellmuth, you know, I mean, he's a master at that. Not even all the time, just he can get runs where he's a master, where he can make those kind of decisions regularly. So again, it's one of those things you can kind of look out for. And the beauty of it is, you only have to act on the ones you're pretty sure of. You don't have to act on all of them.
Gary's raised again, this time King Queen off under the gun. Johannes calls Jack 10 suited. Anthony calls King Queen off.
Everybody
from the small.
misses.
Roberto with a little wide peel there with Jack 5 offsuit going 4-way from the big blind. It's a little loose. But as you point out, everyone does miss. 7-3 deuce.
Now, if Johannes checks this, Roberto goes favourite, if everyone misses 4 straight. Now I'm betting on Roberto. Give me 2-1 to win this hand.
You got it for a $5.
Okay.
I'm getting my 10 already. I feel like I've done my money.
No, a lot of 4 straight could come up, right? 2-1, you know.
Gary.
Now, Roberto, you've let me down. You checked. That's not fair.
Johannes thinking about stabbing a
5
back. I think you're more likely now. Well, spades have rolled off. Gary with the second nut flush. Roberto with the jack high flush.
You just waited there to take my money. Yeah, you just waited. You waited like a...
You've offered a few bets. I waited for you to make a mistake.
You waited. Stupid. That was a mistake.
The only thing is...
Oh, hello.
Roberto has bet his jack high flush. You never know. Gary might fold the king high flush.
No, I'm hoping for the raise and then the shove.
It's not likely, but you're not dead yet.
Well, you give me something back anyway. Give me £2 back and I'll concede.
Well, Gary has called. You've still got a chance he mucks the hand.
Somebody else might raise.
Johannes is thinking about it. So Roberto value betting the inferior flush.
Yeah, Roberto was showing it over like he thought he'd won, but...
That was a chance. Yeah, I'm not sure about that peel from the big blind. Jack 5 against an undergun raise and 2 other callers. Not a lot of good hands you can make.
I was going to bet 200.
You were going to bet?
No, you.
Was I?
No, that's what I thought. I misread you.
I think Gary is reminding us of Gordon Gekko on Wall Street. Greed is good. He was just
good.
He's won the pot. He's given Roberto the rub down that he could have called a bigger bet.
Would you have called more?
Still got to change the clothes. Still got the swimsuit.
You should have underneath.
No, nothing. But I'm hot. Well, sitting next to you gets me hot.
So bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hot.
So bright.
You're hot.
Huh?
You're hot.
No, bright.
Oh, bright. You're not hot, though.
You look hot. I mean, not in that way.
You're getting jealous.
Anthony on the button. 6-4. He's raising up. Pretty wide here. It will be dependent on the big blind. Gary 10 deuce off, he won't play.
I mean, Gary strikes me as someone who's maybe pretty tight, so I guess I'm assuming Anthony's a pro, so it is the kind of big blind he is going to target. Even though there is the difficulty that he knows
Yeah.
Roberto's in the small blind, but then thinking about it a bit deeper, Roberto himself is going to be wanting to target who he regards as weaker players.
Right.
So he might actually slow down a wee bit on
Anthony.
On Anthony.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty spot on read of the situation.
Look at that. Right in there.
Remember the old days, Andy? If you saw a Swede at your table,
No, I
you'd
wish
get
I
scared.
did. Yeah, no, the Swedes have just got kind of tight.
It's funny those guys who went 6-betting, 7-betting every hand don't seem to be around anymore. I wonder why.
Yeah, they're probably traders now.
Punt like that with someone else's money, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, they're into.
45. 45.
Yeah, I mean it is fascinating the change. I mean, around the time when the Swedes were ruling the roost, the Germans were just a joke, a national joke. They were just regarded as great, another German at the table. They're just so predictable. And certainly for the first few years when the Germans were playing these high rollers, they just absolutely annihilated them. Yeah. Reminds me of the old adage, which of course you know if you're British, you know about football. Yeah, you know, what is the definition of football?
What is the definition of football?
Ah, I'm so glad you asked me that. The definition of football is a game which has 11 people on each team, which Germany win. And there certainly was a period in poker where it felt like that. Funnily enough, I remember thinking of this mind training stuff. Many years ago, I was playing for Ireland in when I had this run of kind of team tournaments, and they had this one on the London Eye, which was like right at the beginning, and they had a lot of the best players in the world came over to play it.
Am I right in saying this is the one where everyone got dealt the same hand?
Yeah.
They rated you on how you dealt the same cards. Kind of like a
Oh,
bridge tournament.
I just want to say that I am actually the reigning team and individual champion of duplicate poker.
That's a duplicate. Right, so they only did it once then.
What?
They only did it once then.
No, they did it many years, but what seemed to happen was there was a lot of money in it originally, but gradually the money went down and down and down until there was no money in this pride. So the quality of the players went down. So we played it recently, and I've only played it one time over in England, and you know, the Irish team was absolutely annihilated everyone. You know, we finished first, second, and third in the individuals. But
who were your teammates?
My teammates. Oh, it wasn't. The Irish team itself has been going down and down and down over the years. So my team, Chris Dowling.
I like you say this. Before mentioning your teammates, you talk about how the standards has dropped through the years.
The standards
you don't want to say, well, obviously the Ireland team's really strong. You've just mugged off your teammates before naming them.
And me. The fact that I got to play really says a lot. So let's look at this hand.
Standard so far, Anthony raising queens. David defends 6-7 suited in the big blind.
No. Beer.
And wow.
Oh, now we have action.
This should be a check, a bet, and a check raise.
Shots.
No shot.
Yeah, queens is.
Ready for shots.
It's now very. If you do get check raised here, you actually have a decision. Now that's
checks back. He understands that board is more about the big blind than him, and therefore wants to check back. A lot more of his range here. This is more of a GTO play than obviously making exploitable plays.
45.
And he thinks he's getting a bluff here a lot of the time, or a bet from a weaker hand, David. As it happens, he is behind.
Well, he did also check back the king high flush draw after raising against the ace 10. So
yeah, he's playing a much more GTO style than the other guys in this table. It's going to work out in this situation. Some draws have missed here. Of course, 8x, 4x, spades. David does have plenty of bluffs he can represent here. I'm surprised to see him go quite big. 127.
Yeah, he's gone pretty big, and I think
Anthony,
he's going to hum and haw and call.
Well, this is a really easy call. You beat some of his value hands with his strong tens. Don't quite know why he's taking this long. It is a call.
But he is looking at him. I mean, this is definitely worth noting. He's not insta-calling. He's looking at him. He's trying to feel something out. You know, maybe deep down he actually had an instinct that he was losing, but he bothered to take the time to at least consider it, just a little bit of time. And you could see he wasn't Hollywooding. He was actually having a little think about it.
I think it may have been a case of he was expecting perhaps to face a smaller bet on the river and thinking he might value raise. When he faced the bigger bet, it probably was a bit more polarizing. His opponent's unlikely to bet a 7 for that amount.
Yeah, there's no way he can actually raise that one.
No.
Well, I'm just a learner at GTO. Having,
Aren't we all?
Yeah, well,
I actually noticed a car in the car park outside here with a number plate PIO for the PIO solver, NLH.
No way!
Someone has that number plate. PIO
Okay.
NLH.
Well, just can you point them out to me so I don't go out with them socially?
I thought it was a little strong. and not wanting to diss anyone's car or anything. And the car was hardly the most balling of cars
Oh,
that
really?
you might
Okay.
expect that plate would be attributed to. Didn't look like someone who's crushing NLH using their PIO solver.
Okay.
Again, cars are cars, but you think the person who goes out and buys that number plate would probably be into their cars as well? I don't know. I just thought it was quite odd.
I'd say it looks like they're not somebody who's into cars. They're just into
Number
PIO
plates.
solver and no limit hold'em.
And number plates.
Number plates, yeah. I
I
mean,
thought it was quite a good number plate, but
no, yeah, I'm happy. I'm still going to go out with other people of it.
I like it if I saw it on one of the Lambos parked outside. Like, that's someone who's crushing the game.
Oh, yeah.
He's crushing it using PIO, beating the NLH.
No, but I prefer if it was PIO
Anyone else? Beer?
NLH
Beer?
1.
Can we get 3 Coronas?
I'd like that
yeah,
more.
man.
Speaking of names, my favourite name, just thinking of Phil Helmuth, yeah? Back whenever I won the Premier League a number of years ago and he finished
brag
last.
incoming.
He
That's a
finished
brag.
last, yeah?
You're the only one left.
At the time, I didn't know it was the time I discovered that what his online name was. Reading into the fact as well that there's now 7 billion on the people. At the time, 10 years ago, there was sort of closer to 6 billion, of people on the planet. His name on, I think it might have been Party Poker, was best of 6 billion.
6.
Not bad.
So
brilliant.
anyway, anyone who meets Phil at a game in the future,
Best of 6 billion.
yeah, just say, hey,
Not
best
having
of 6 billion.
You look like the person who should be having a beer. Youngest look, yeah, you're not having a beer.
Sorry?
You can have a beer.
That's why.
Now, interesting that Roberto's raised. Ryan has just called. They're both very deep, 2 million and 1.6 million. He's just called with a very strong ace, queen of diamonds. And you kind of understand that. We're early in the tournament. They're two very big deep. I imagine they both figured out that the other player is a kind of strong player.
I like it.
And they're just deciding to play a small pot.
And a world of difference, of course, with ace queen suited versus ace queen off. Lots more flops you can continue on with, and you don't mind as much going through with the big blind who inevitably is going to call. You see here Chris with 10-8 of spades. Very playable hand. And well, that's a pretty good flop for him. Queen, queen, 7. That'll be the trips. And Roberto with a little something to get him stuck.
40.
Ryan betting 40k when check to. Look at this. Chris getting way out of line with just some very loose backdoor straight draw. That's going to save Roberto doing chips in this pot. Ryan, you feel the raise size is so small, just 65 more.
I got to say it. There was Chris had a big tell there. And let's see if anyone can guess what it was. We'll let this hand play out. Did you see it?
I don't think I did. The speed was very fast.
Speed was fast. It was just way too fast, I think. Certainly, it's not always the case. But just on that board, if you think about it, 2 queens, you've got the queen. Does it go bet, raise really quickly? I'd say not too often. It felt a bit funky.
Chris Checks. I don't like that sizing of the bluff either. Just 65,000 more. It's going to get called by so many hands on this board. Obviously, it's going to work out bluffing so small when Ryan has the absolute lot.
And this hand is over.
You have it? Add something? Add something. Unlike you. Add 10 high.
Well done.
You're going to find out anyway.
Yeah, I don't mind a bluff on this board, but it needs to be bigger sizing, and I'd much rather you had a hand like 10-8 of clubs and 10-8 of spades there to give himself some backdoor flush draws along with the backdoor straight draw.
But interestingly, he did actually tell him what he had, and the thing about it is, I don't think you should actually do that at the table here. Whenever you say, oh, you're going to find out to someone because it's a live stream, well, you're not sure. Quite a lot of people actually don't spend the break looking at what the hands were. So unless you have a reason for doing it, you know, I wouldn't bother saying that. You know, and the type of reason could be you're trying to present yourself as a certain type of player for some reason further down the line.
I agree with that in almost all cases, although in this one it was so obviously, when you check raise this board then just check fold that turn, so obviously a bluff. I think it's no...
Yeah.
It's all clearly a no equity bluff. Not as important, but you're quite right. You shouldn't, you know, remove the doubt. Ryan, hijack, king jack raises it up. David's changed names to David.
Oh, well, can
more
you
than
do
reasonable.
that? Can you do that on the stream?
He can, well, he just has.
Is it not Davide?
Probably. What are you going to go for, Davide? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
I'm going to defer to your superior judgment.
Hello.
Little Tony's coming in from the big.
Oh, little Tony.
He's in with ace
He's
5.
got small hands, little Tony.
6, 7.
Everyone misses.
Deuce. No joy for any of the players. Will Ryan fire a bullet? The artist formerly known as David. He throws his ace-10 away. A little tone. Pitches in the ace-5. King high turns into a winner.
Yeah, Ryan has certainly come here to play. I like the way he's playing so far.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised for him to cause a bit of damage to some of the weaker players, and if he hits a few hand, he definitely could be the man to watch.
And more importantly, if you're going to change your name, what would it be?
Oh, if I was going to change my name, Sir.
It's just Sir Andy Black.
Yeah, I used to do this.
Knighted for services to what exactly?
Just Sir. Sometimes when I have other, you know, in my life there's been other smaller kids around, you know, I'll just get them to call me Sir. You know, and there's been small kids, so there'll be small kids, and and the parents will come back, you know, be mine again, and I'll go, Sir. But you know, there can be a lack of respect and appreciation among the youth today, so I'm just trying to add to that.
I like it.
And James, what would you call yourself?
That is a great...
Were you Flushy? Was that what you were known?
Flushy, yeah. That's one of my many names.
And so what are the other names I don't know about?
There's so many. Most of which not safe for streaming. I was also a fan of the Doctor. I was called the Doctor for a while. But that added some... In fact, I'll tell you a funny story about that in a second after we watch this hand. As Roberto peels from the big blind with Queen 6 of diamonds. The player formerly known as David has flopped a set of 7s.
Davide has flopped middle set. He could check this now. It's definitely something to consider. Or the very small bet.
Yeah, I like betting against someone as frisky as Roberto, because even with a hand like this, he's got backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush draw, and knows that it's hard for Davide to hit this flop too hard too often. But he does throw it away. Yeah, it was when I was fortunate enough to be on a World Series poker final table. I had friends.
Oh, nice brag.
Shouting, for whatever reason, they started chanting, "He's a doctor." Don't know why, they just did. And after, again, I'm going to throw out another brag. I was fortunate enough to win the event. I was,
whoa.
the following day, interviewed by Nolan Dola, the World Series of Poker media director.
He's not Nolan Dola, but I like it. Nolan Dalla.
Nolan Dallas.
But Dola.
There we go.
Next time I meet him, I'm going to tell him that there's some English guy,
Some English idiot.
Some pomme de terre who's calling him Nolan Dolo.
Anyway, he was interviewing me, and he heard about his doctor stuff, and he sort of before interviewing me had gone to do a bit of background check, and at this time asked Neil Channing, because Neil Channing was
Neil Channing knew everything.
Neil Channing knows everything. This, and bear in mind, this was 8 years ago when
Well,
Neil Channing was backing
no
about
Google.
He was backing basically all of the UK poker scene. So he went to Neil and on this interview he goes, so I gather obviously they call you the doctor because you have a doctorate from Oxford. I was like, do I? And he went, oh, is that not true? This is what I checked into. I was like, well, where'd you get that information from? And he said, Neil Channing. And I was like, well, no, I'm afraid that's not true, but blah, blah, blah. And then when I saw Neil, later in the week, I sort of went, Neil, what's this about? And Neil genuinely believed that was the case.
Welcome.
He said,
Oh.
I thought you did have a doctorate from Oxford. I don't. I've never even been to Oxford.
But if somebody told me you'd had a doctorate from Oxford, I believe them.
Okay. I've had a doctorate from Oxford.
Maybe not now.
I visited a doctor who once worked in Oxford.
Yeah. No, you do come across as someone who's erudite.
There you go.
Oh, I appreciate that, but it was quite amusing.
Do you want me to explain the meaning of erudite?
No. Let's maintain the
okay.
idea that I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We have a new player.
Aha! Now, this is a man who hasn't earned a shirt today.
The white shirt.
That might say something.
It almost looks.
Said hello to everybody else, but you winked at me.
Do we have a name?
We'll have a name momentarily.
That's quite exciting.
What do you reckon for name? What do you reckon nationality? What are we going with?
I'm going to go with Lithuanian.
I might just cheat and go British, just because of where we are. I feel that goes against the spirit, so I'm going to go for Italian.
Oh, I like that. But I don't think he'd have a crumpled shirt if he was Italian. I'm sorry.
That's a great point. Well, we're going to find out any second.
It's very exciting.
Roberto raises the button. Gary in the small ace jack of diamonds. I like this. Just playing it as a call. Yanni.
Very close. What is that?
Very close.
What is that flag?
Is that not Bulgarian?
Yeah, Lithuanian, Bulgarian. Very close.
Ace queen for him. He decides at his first hand at the table just to call, which you can understand. Doesn't know how these players are playing. Obviously, Roberto carries quite the reputation.
Although, really, in truth, it is really, you've got a raise there, I think. Your ace queen, it's a dealer raise. You're only going to hit that flop 1 and 2 times or so. Bulgarian. Right,
and of course, as you're saying, with Gary in between, there's enough in there to squeeze up and try and take this pot down.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you do get called, you've got 2 big cards.
I mean, I'm a bit happier with doing it heads up. There's disguise. But 3-way, you can find yourself in a lot of nasty spots with that hand. And, very frequently.
See Gary just giving up ace high there on that board very quickly to Roberto C-bet. Kind of vindicates Roberto's C-bet on this kind of board if you've got players who are giving up over pairs in a gut shot. Over cards in a gut shot, pardon me. Right, look at this.
I think he's going to do something.
Yanni cutting out some chips. Coming out with a min raise, it looks like.
Say hello to my little friend.
And this will work. Roberto with just 8 high surely isn't going to continue. No pair. Only a backdoor flush draw against our new man.
Yeah, I think he might have started speaking there, which is dangerous with Roberto.
Nope, Roberto wants to see another card.
I think he started speaking there, and that is not something I would do with Roberto Romanello.
Roberto prides himself
to
on
my mind,
speech
Roberto
play.
Has got the initiative. 100% if Yanni checks, Roberto will bet this turn.
Right, Roberto, when he floats here, has to bluff so many cards. And he does check. Roberto reaching for chips. 491 is the size of the pot. 255 the size of the bet.
And this hand is over, I believe.
Can Yanni find a call? It's hard to think what hands Roberto could play this way for value. Bet, raise pre-flop, bet the flop, call a check raise, and now want to bet the turn. It's unlikely to just be one pair even. I suppose the biggest over pairs.
So can Yanni find a check raise all in, and hats off to everyone.
That'll be a spicy one. I'm calling, but he does give it up. So well played there by Roberto, up against 2 ace highs.
It's an unconventional hand, but Roberto's more old school, so...
Yeah, this one far from GTO, but it's completely situational, and Roberto
It's
understanding the less experienced players, and he sees a minimum check raise on deuce 3-4, and he knows clearly knows against an unknown player. He's the first hand at the table, but he knows these kind of guys usually don't have it in that spot.
Yeah, he's decided that the guy doesn't have his head. I think he spoke as well. So I sort of heard sort of off camera that he spoke. And I think Roberto may well have picked up something. But he is playing at the moment with foot down, pedal to the metal. And sometimes a player can be just doing that and they hope to win sort of more than they lose. So far I haven't seen anything else from Roberto except pretty much the foot down on the pedal. So... But maybe the lesson here for anyone at home is, particularly if you see an old school pro, don't talk to them. And Roberto will be one of those guys.
Roberto raises to 40k. Yanni flats the small. He's going to try his second hand at the table. Ryan, of course, 8-6 of clubs in the big, also cool. Rather see Yanni 3-bet fold this hand, but does decide to call. Roberto, for the first time, actually has a hand. Such, of course, misses. Just sticks to playing as garbage. Both players do check to Roberto.
So GTO, do you bet this one?
And this is just one you've got to check back GTO-wise, but... Again, if you're playing against players who aren't going to get frisky, then you obviously c-bet more often.
And this is a very kind of unusual bet. He's bet over the size of the pot. Now again, old school players who are kind of tricky will employ very, very small bets and very, very big bets.
Yeah. So interesting amount of course that Ryan continues with an opener straight draw and backdoor flush draw. Roberto, when he's being called for pot on this board, hard for him to continue here.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the queen isn't a great card for, you know, he's hoping for that kind of card in a way.
Well, he is reaching. Goes big again, 400,000. Of course, Ryan with 8 high will now fold. Be much more interesting if Ryan had flopped a pair there, 7 or 9.
I mean, a player like Roberto is thinking more, can I get someone off a hand?
Yeah.
He's also thinking, oh, I've got 2 beautiful new babies, and I like being on telly, so I'm going to fire the hell out of this. Yeah, I'm wearing a, I'm the only gay in the village sort of outfit, and he's going to war.
Yanni Yanev, what a name. Really wishing he hadn't come to this table. That's 2 out of 2. Looking at Yanni's Hennemob. See, he does have a very big result in this very place. Came second in the WBT 500 back in 2015 for £90,000. That £500 buy an event.
Well, I mean, so far, even though it hasn't worked out for him, it looks like he's got game, you know. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, look at just some of the names involved. See that's one by Richard Harris. I see Florian Duta on that final. Alex Skorda in the mix. Your man Chris Dowling came 13th in that very event.
I remember that, actually.
Yanni came
One of the reasons why he got on that Irish team. In fact, the trophy for that is in his club, and he was the only guy who didn't perform that well on the team. So, but he's got a...
There's no I in team.
Yeah, this is it. Now, here we go. I think Roberto's done this once too often.
Wow, Chris, you
Oh
can't
my
fold
goodness.
this for 60,000 more.
Oh my goodness! Now that I really don't like that.
Well, this is like it. This is not
Yours will
a
take
GTO play from Roberto. But if your
Yours will
opponents
take
are going to
no
lay
time.
down
Oh, yeah.
ace-10 suited for
How long does it
60,000
take?
more, you can 3-bet them out of their seats.
You just need to get them from the fridge and bring them over.
I mean, one of the things Roberto's particularly good at, particularly on day one in tournaments, is amassing sort of good amounts of chips. Now, it's pretty clear you can see how he does that. And we've already seen a number of hands which, you know, GTO-wise are not
Confusing
standard.
Yeah.
But,
Weird one.
you know, they've also
Hard
not
to
been
work out how
appalling
many big
from
blinds
Roberto,
are.
and he's, you know, he's prepared to fire all clips.
Right, you hear there the announcement. Blinds are going up in the main event. After this hand, we'll play 9,000, 18,000.
A beautiful anti-level.
Just one for your mind, isn't it? Just to mess you up a little bit.
Well, particularly if you've been playing poker a long time, it's a
Yeah.
it's a real leap. You know, you got the 9,000, 18,000.
Not one we're used to. Roberto raising once more, 9-7 of spades. Gary in the next seat, pocket sixes. He is going to call.
Now, Roberto, you know, over the next while, he's just going to keep going until he makes a backward step.
Although I was surprised that I think this might be a spot Davide was going to take. Check 8 of clubs, could 3-bet that from the small blind. Roberto's playing every hand. Gary doesn't represent much strength by peeling. I'd like to see him 3-bet there. It's kind of hand you don't want to peel with, but it's not so bad if you do get called. Andy, the Jack 8 of clubs, plays okay.
Yeah, but sometimes what happens is, particularly at the beginning of these tournaments, is guys decide, well, I'm not going to do anything too much. If you hear the talk, just generally about, you know, you talk to 100 random people at the beginning of a tournament, yeah? You know, they'll mostly talk about kind of hanging in there the first day. So, you know, and then you add to that whenever, you know, nothing much has been happening for you, you can actually end up a bit more passive, you know?
Well, this flop misses everybody, but Roberto does have 3 cards to a straight flush. And he's going to check here. I think this is a spot where he's going to check knowing he sees the turn a lot because Gary's unlikely to bluff him and he can perhaps bluff the turn. And what a turn it is. Roberto open-ender.
Everyone hits.
Johannes finds a pair of sixes, but Gary makes a set of sixes.
I think we're going to see bet, raise,
Again,
fold.
look at him going over pot.
Bet, raise, fold.
180 the bet. I like to see Gary just flat here against that sizing. Really hard for Roberto to have anything.
Well, more importantly, it's very, very unlikely for him to have a flush draw.
Right.
So when you take that out, because of the checking on the flop.
No,
Oh,
Gary's
no,
flat.
don't do it.
Oh, he is
And
going
it's
to
a
raise.
ridiculously large raise.
Yeah, Roberto just reps next to nothing when he checks the flop and bets over pot on the turn here. We'll think about it a little bit. Does have a straight draw. This is annoying for him because he did turn that straight draw. He's now not going to see the river. Look at this, Andy. The Coronas have arrived on table. No one sent one back to us though.
Yeah, me.
Oh,
Friendly, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yep. I'll get it. How much is it? I'll get it.
Now, this is pure Hollywood on Roberto's part. Now, it must have been, it's one of the bits of his game I don't like too much.
Yeah,
That every once in a while, he sort of thinks for virtually no reason. Now, the only thing I can think of here, there's no chance of him playing here. In my opinion, it's not like Gary has like
you get what
$1.5
as well?
million back or something like that, even
Right.
$1 million back.
Just trying to save face.
But he's, yeah, and he's you know, the reason for it is because he's so aggressive at the moment. He's trying to give maximum sort of sense that he has a hand
Right.
in those situations where he's going to fold.
He wants his opponents to sweat a bit. They're going to win a pot, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want them. If he just folds as soon as they raise, they're like, oh, that was easy. Maybe I'll try that again.
Yeah, particularly he's got this sort of plan. He's maximum kind of pressure on. So,
Cheers. Done.
and you know, I was, you know, Roberto, interesting play. I think he made one of the greatest televised folds of all time.
The bottom house in the main event.
Yeah, which, you know, I haven't seen it for a long time. I kind of, it's a House of Jacks or something like that, where I think he flopped the set and somehow there wasn't much betting and he folded for 1 or 2 bets. So anyway, I love Roberto's game.
Better not be lying to me.
I ain't laying.
Highly could.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
We
problem.
got these, yeah?
Yep, no problem.
Would you have their sexies?
Good health.
Cheers.
Kan det sex? Kan det se?
Oh, look. So
He did.
one of the players has guessed
Still was live against
your
you.
man's
Nice five.
hand. I guessed he had sixes. Guessed the Gary.
Well,
I
it's the
think,
kind of
had
hand that
sixes.
makes sense. They're actually going. They all check the flop, and he bets the turn and gets raises. It's hard for him to have anything else. 8-6 perhaps, but they already know Gary's not playing too many hands. Maybe 6 is way more likely.
I mean, really, again, you know, I would class that as quite a big mistake, raising the turn, because
When your opponent's bet more than pot, he's...
what's this on the turn? No strength that's been shown on the flop. Uber aggressive player who raised originally is definitely going to bet all of their strong hands. So it's actually, what are they repping, you know? I don't think you want to let them in. So I think he showed a bit of a lack of composure there.
Deuce.
It's a more standard hand. Johannes limps the small, Chris checks the big. Both players check 10-9-6. I'm surprised Chris checked that one. Top pair, backdoor diamond. Certainly can get called by weaker hands. Has now turned a flush draw. Does elicit a bet from Johannes. And king on the river.
But I think, you know, I think it's right for Johannes to give up here.
I could have got sneaky, but all I'm doing is letting you hit. Won't get any more out of you.
Yeah, you could have called him.
Yeah, but then, what? Unless you, yeah, you're going to bluff on the river. Yeah.
I assume Chris is going to go for a little bit of value here. Imagine bet of like 35,000. No, he's not doing it.
Yeah,
He's
body
like,
language doesn't scream like he's going to bet, does it? It's hard to bet once you act like that.
yeah, I mean, Chris is, again, he seems to be giving quite a lot away here.
Port Mirren, the festival on the 60s. And even Wales.
Yeah, mistake checking there, but it wouldn't make a difference in this situation. He's up against Jack High.
It's amazing place.
There?
Google it. You should know anyway. You will.
But the mistake is letting your opponent see that you checked pair of tens.
Yeah, it's right out.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Should have bet that flop, really.
Architecture.
Now it's hard. If you're not betting that, then what are you betting the flop? So in a situation when you do bet, you're way more weighted towards bluffs than you are having a hand.
Festival, it's amazing.
That's the problem in that situation.
I've been yesterday and went to the festival, you know. And the woods and everything, dancing.
So we are about 10 minutes into this new level.
But yeah,
At the end of the level, there will be a break. Before that break, I'm going to ask you guys a question. If you know the answer to that question, and pop it in the chat box, we will draw a winner from the correct answers. And that winner will pick up a 109 Partypoker Live satellite ticket. It'll be a very easy question. Even Andy will know the answer.
What is the opposite of the color black? Okay, that's not the question. That's not. I was just guessing what the question was. Yeah. So
Roberto raises once more. This time with a hand, pocket eights.
now, Anthony's definitely going to appeal with this. He's a guy who does not lay down the two suited cards in the big blind.
Right, perfectly good hand to peel against an undergun raise. Well, this plot probably going to go check. There's a lot of merit in Roberto betting. But he is going to ramp up the aggression.
I see. I knew he was going to bet there.
I think I probably deep down I did know Roberto was going to bet there. I don't think he should, but that's how he is playing.
18 ante.
After that break, we will come back, I believe, with the same table. That is the current plan for one more hour of play. That would be their last hour of the day. If you want to win that prize, it will be before the next break that you need to enter. So if you haven't already got one, get yourself a real money Partypoker account. Otherwise, you can't play. Well, you can play, but you can't win. What's the point in playing if you can't win, Andy?
Fun.
Love of the game. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, you can enter. You can enter. Why not? Play even if you don't have an account.
Yeah.
And then watch someone else get your prize.
Well, if you're not in, you can't win. Be there or be square.
Davide, ace, 5 of diamonds in the hijack. He's going to play. He well should.
Of course, he has 3 aces with a 5 at the moment. He's got 2 aces on his arm.
Ooh, well spotted. And I think they were the spade and the heart, right? There's no duplicate ace of diamonds in play.
No. But
I don't think anyone
there
gets
is
a tattoo
now-
of the ace.
There is now. There's the duplicate ace of spades.
We've got a foul deck, guys. A foul deck.
Stuart's inquiry.
It doesn't surprise me to see Chris fold that. He may have gone for the 3-bet bluff, but given he folded ace-10 suited, Roberto's 3-bet earlier, really a player on the more cautious side. Maybe, as you were saying, just day one, people are a bit more chill, not necessarily looking to go to war. Which is why, as you say, players like Roberto who do go to war have such success in building stacks. Now, Anthony is going to 3-bet.
I mean, there's an old adage in poker, which, you know, if you kind of play differently than everyone else, it gives you an advantage.
16,000 from there.
So,
especially if
The
you
big
understand the other opponent's point of view,
much
right?
is
You can predict them a lot easier.
I nearly got away with it.
Try to shortchange me, yeah.
Pro
Good
discount.
try, good try.
Damn. Next time.
Can put you on
oh, so
two.
Anthony is Scottish.
He is
And he's
Scottish.
down, he's got a
Been working
Union
all
Jack
day as
there.
well.
And I see Richard asking, did Roberto Romanello lose a prop bet?
He was bluffing me.
The answer is no. This is just how he
Was he?
dresses on a Wednesday.
Flop, you was, yeah.
Always has.
He did, of course, lose a
Had
bet.
before, yeah.
And he
Had a good
explained
job.
the details of the bet earlier. Those who weren't listening. Well, it turns out
also-
he kind of. It sounds to me like Trickett lost on a technicality and somehow
Oh,
got away with
Trickett
this.
most definitely lost.
head.
Trickett welched on a bet. I'm not saying he's not to be trusted, but
he
he's
did
just not
welch
to
on a
be
bet.
trusted. He's not to be trusted on clothing bets, let's just say.
It's a last longer bet.
Bulgaria.
Trickett won by not entering the tournament.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yanni limps under the gun, ace-10 of hearts.
Say hi to
Again,
Richard.
don't
Say hi
favour
to Richard.
limping strategies, but it's
Richard
okay as long
Harris.
as you have some sort of balancing strategy. And well, Chris is going to raise
flat
in
call.
position.
Limp.
I don't think he realised there has been a limp when he's.
I mean, if people don't know you, the limp from under the gun is frequently not re-raised because, you know, it is the kind of thing that people do with aces.
Yeah, looking at the size, Chris sort of looked up after he made the bet. I don't think he realised Yanni limp, but of course he would still play this hand. With that information, makes Anthony's situation a little different because
joined
he
the
has
party.
ace-queen suited,
If they
and
let
he's
me.
now playing against a raise after a limp, but where the raiser didn't realise there had been a limp, so the ranges are different, but he's still got to worry about the under the guns range. So I think he does the best thing here and just flat
Well,
call with
might not
ace-queen
be in the
suited. A
party,
fine
yeah.
hand to get
No.
multi-way. Roberto,
Depends.
ace-4
We're
suited.
on
Of
the
course,
bus.
he's also
What
in.
the
And now
Bulgarian
Yanni
Depends what your friend does.
in at a discount with ace-10 of hearts. So
Oh, he's
all
well.
sorts of things going on here. 4 very playable hands. What chance of the case ace, Andy?
What the chance? Even money, either it
It's
comes
beer,
or it
losing
doesn't.
and
There we go.
everybody else.
Correct answer.
Like,
That's why I got him. Business.
I like it. Like 4?
4 deuces a big
Let's have an interesting flop here.
Queen 5-3. We have 3 suited aces, so of course it comes the other suit. Anthony though with top pair and the backdoor spade draw and the button. Everything looking good for him. Roberto going to come out firing with a gut shot. Never slows down. It's hard to see how he lost the last longer bet.
Yeah. And therefore your conclusion that he always seems to be wearing these outfits makes sense as well.
Yeah.
How many?
Chris. Seen enough of Roberto to know 9s is worth a call here. And Anthony with an interesting spot here, whether to raise or call. They're pretty deep, so I'd lean towards a call. Keep some of those weaker hands in. He knows the bad cards are diamonds. In this case, it doesn't have to be. But not too many bad cards aside from a diamond. 8 of spades is pretty gin, gives him the nut flush draw. Roberto, I mean, come on, Roberto, you've got to slow down eventually. This is crazy.
Stuck in the middle.
I mean, this is being a, you know, I appreciate he's going as aggressive as possible, but this is burning money now.
The only thing is they are very deep, so a re-raise here means that Anthony's committing his entire stack.
Oh, Anthony's never raising. He's got top pair, top kicker, and the nut flush draw. He's going to let Roberto dig his own
Let's see
grave.
if Roberto can hit a mouse.
Oh
Yes, he's
my
hit the mouse.
God.
He's hit the mouse.
There
That's
is-
how well. That's called the baby bounce, boys.
There is no justice for Anthony as Roberto.
Now the question is, how much will Roberto bet? I mean, he's hit the rat, the duck, No, the rat's the 3, the mouse or the duck.
I mean, I'm getting confused. What's a 5 other than a 5?
It's a 5.
Oh, okay, there's no name for this. Okay. So now he's made gin.
Value bet, clear value bet. He wants
going
to make
big.
absolute. No, he's not that big.
It's pretty big. He's going pot over pot 980.
No, he's not. He's not going 980. He's going
He
about
has
400 or 500.
No, you see those pink chips, those red chips, they're 500s, Andy. I know you probably got that far on a tournament for a while, but
How
those,
much does he bet?
those
He's got a red chip. I
yeah,
didn't
red
see
chips
that.
in
Sorry.
play. And he usually out before those come into play.
Now, personally, I think this is a mistake. He's bet too much, but let's see.
I think it's getting a lot harder for Anthony now, but the diamonds have missed. Well, I think what hands does Roberto 5-3 with flank from the small? 5s and 3s, obviously prime candidates. Missed diamonds, there are a lot of. Of course, he could have a hand like 4-6 or ace-4 with diamond draws that got there. May have a hand like 6-7 of spades that kind of stabbed the flop, picked up extra equity.
I mean, if he's called in this, he's
He does
probably
call. I think this is a
leading
good
the
call. Against Roberto, you just look at his
You got to feel sad.
look at that face. 3 outed.
Unlucky.
And Roberto getting max value on the river. And I think this is a call for Anthony. You just seeing what we've seen from Roberto. He's playing a little bit above the clouds today.
Yeah, I think Roberto's got awfully lucky. Anthony got very unlucky. It's very difficult to lay that hand down.
Romanello crushing this table.
What a gin
currently.
card. Misses both the flushes as well. What are you thinking? Hello?
And the flip side of it is, I'm pretty sure Roberto was betting if he missed, so.
Yeah. I'd say Anthony done nothing wrong there. Very unlucky.
I always
Roberto
play better in
with the baby
home games
bounce.
in these outfits.
Well,
Finds
the double baby bounce.
finds the
'cause
mouse,
it's
the
twins.
duck, the zoo, the
It's
cow,
twins.
whatever it is on the bottom.
Yeah, it's twins. Don't underestimate the double baby bounce. And this is not, I'm not saying bounce your babies. Just in case you misunderstand that.
Lucky river.
Don't bounce your babies. It's just the baby bounce. I'm not sure if Roberto can play any more aggressively, but let's see. Oh, he folded 10-9.
It's a massive fold.
That's
for
a
Roberto.
giant fold. We need to talk to him later to find his thinking on that one. Well, you really got a feel for Anthony there. I got to say that. He's very unlucky.
Yeah, he's watched Roberto blast, blast, blast. Finally gets the hand and the run out. It's perfect to cool him down. Finds out he got 3 outed on the end. Yanni defends ace-9 from the big. Ryan had king-queen under the gun. Of course, is going to c-bet this board. Yanni against an under the gun raise. Even though there's a 9 of spades, will fold. Ace of spades in hand, he may call here, but the 9 of spades. So just let it go.
And something around 4 million will get you a top 20 stack going into day 2. So
Something around 1.5 million will get you a bigger stack than Andy has.
Anytime.
that's right, yeah. But everyone else is just holding their chips for me, and I do really appreciate it. So the question is now for Roberto, was the prop bet where he had to wear it for the whole tournament?
That I do not know. Hope not for myself. I can deal with a few hours looking at this, but
I changed directly from
But
I
you
don't know what's more upsetting, the outfit or finding that deuce on the river. I mean,
Ah.
I'm cheering for Roberto. Roberto, you know, I've known Roberto a long time. I am cheering for him, but that one just felt a bit dirty.
that was pretty.
I would cheer against him, but Anthony, I thought, was played very well up to now. Well, up to now, including that hand. Did nothing wrong. He deserved to win that pot.
Now, I mean, the rest of the table are now in an even more intriguing position against Roberto, because now they know, if they didn't before, that he's raising with kind of any
Testing
two.
how high you defend.
So
And now next time I need to just push
there's
it.
going to be a situation that'll come up now in the next
Looking
while
with
where
the
somebody
cutoff
we're
line
going to
is
see
your
what people are made of.
Yeah. Interesting there, Roberto saying, obviously, you made quite big sizing here, open to 51k at the 18k blind, and it was picked up by Ryan. And Roberto said, I'm just going to see what your tolerance level is. Like, what number do I have to raise to where you won't defend? Look at this. Again, Roberto, top pair against Ryan's second pair. 7-5 board. Well, this should slow things down, but you never know.
You got it.
Well, Roberto, I'm not sure what this is for. This is not good.
All right.
But he's going to make a 7-fold here.
Pick one.
Anything better than one pair would have
Let me
called.
pick
So
one.
Sorry?
Let me pick one.
You can do whatever you want.
You can do
He's just
whatever
keeping the
you
momentum
It's all
going,
good.
you know, he's keeping the foot in the pedal.
You make the
Yeah.
rules up and we'll just go whatever you say.
So it's like
I
being hit
wouldn't
by a
bother.
blizzard of punches,
I was probably
and
winning.
all of a sudden
At
your
7.
mind is gone.
I was
Yeah.
I think it's the hair that's doing me.
Thank you.
That little strand of hair that flaps about.
I had an 8.
There you go. Courtesy of that big pot. Roberto Romanello taking it off Anthony Elliott. He is your table chip leader with 4 million. Anthony, though, still looking pretty good here with 99 big blinds. Him and Ryan the same. It's Johannes down the bottom, but 28 big blinds with half a starting stack. No cause for alarm yet. Yanni, Yanev, Davide, Anicito I'm going with.
And the very tight Swedish player, which
Yeah, what's going on? Come on, Johannes. Channel your inner Isolde.
you know, and just looking forward now. So let's see how Anthony copes. He's in the worst seat at the table, just on the right of Roberto. He's been really unluckily done for an awful lot of chips. So it's not a bad strategy for him to slow down, I think, at the moment.
Well, I just see in the chat here, I've got one David Elliott saying Anthony's brother here, he prefers to be called Anton. At least give him that after that last stand. Well, I think we can accommodate that. And then,
Unlucky, Anton. We didn't even get your favorite name right.
and
We
then also
apologise.
his dad's in the chat as well. So we,
All
have,
right.
we have the whole family watching. We will, of course,
Hello, Dad.
refer to Anthony from here on as Anton, or perhaps the player formerly known as Anthony. Right, Anton.
How about the artist formerly known as Anthony?
Well, Anton is holding King 10 of hearts here against Chris's early position raise. And
Now-
he's going to 3-bet. Again, this is a hand you would normally flat with King 10 of hearts. It's fine, but I think he saw Chris fold to a tiny 3-bet earlier and maybe thinking, well, okay, well, I want to give a bet that go.
Dad and brother could maybe send a text to Anton, tell him to chill out, right? Or he could be going home in a body bag.
330.
Well, not going to work this time. Chris quickly 4-bets, and Anton will be giving this one up.
But he's taken a deep mental wound here, so
It's not a huge re-raise, but against Chris's range, I think you just got to give this
but
up.
you just can't underestimate how wounded he is at the moment. When Roberto
Well,
has
he
taken
is-
his brain out and scooped it up.
He's decided the 4-bet is just too small, and I can understand this. I just think Chris is just too nutted here.
I have to be honest with you, Dad and brother, I think your boy's on tilt.
I mean, in fact, I think this is fine. Well,
But he's
Jack
hit it.
10-9. He makes a pair. Chris checks. Anton, I think, with a pretty clear check back here. Of course, a queen comes, it would be disaster. Well, that is a pretty good card for Anton. Chris
He
checks
deserves
once
it.
more.
No,
He does.
fair
He
enough,
does
Chris.
deserve.
Now, I'd like to see a real small bet from...
Right, he doesn't have to bet a lot here.
From
Chris
Chris,
only
maybe.
has 830 behind, so any bet he makes here on the turn sets up for an easy river shove.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think a couple.
160, something like that.
Wow, weird. He's going the other way. This is too big. 425. It might work. Chris looks like he's just. I'm going to go with it.
Oh.
Anton's like, do I really have a 10? Cool. And Chris will need to find a queen. Well, I think 200,000 would have been a bet size there, but it
Nice
got the
one.
job done.
Well, I think Roberto just tilted the whole table.
It has that
It's
effect.
like it. Oh.
5 on the end. Anton recovers some of those chips he lost to Roberto.
Well, let's see the boys in the chat room. Dad and brother. Yeah. Your boys, your homies got all his chips back. And Yeah, he took an aggressive line, a gambling line, and it paid off.
Roberto says, let me know when you want another bit. He's happy to buy. He's got 4 million in chips.
Yeah, I think maybe I would have liked to see a slightly bigger 4-bet.
We've got Ashley Elliott in the mix as well, the sister. We've got the sister, the brother, and the
my
father.
goodness.
Is anyone else watching this stream other than the Elliott family? That's the
just
question.
got the whole... Hello, Ashley.
About your luck.
Great to have you here. And have you any comments to make
I think you'll have a beer after
on your
that,
brother Anton?
Yeah, if you've got any embarrassing stories about Anton you'd like us to read out, please do post them in the chat. We'll do our best.
Yeah.
He's feeling better now.
Well, it'll be totally confidential apart from the people here in the stream.
And those watching on Sky tomorrow night.
And those watching on Sky tomorrow night.
And for eternity on Party Poker TV on demand. Other than that, no one will hear about it.
And anyone we meet in the next week.
Yeah.
But apart from that, we're going to tell no one. So any juicy stories about, you know, when Anton was a little baby?
When did you stop wetting the bed? That's what I want to know.
That is. Yeah. Are you asking me or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anton raises under the gun ace-10. Gary flats 5s.
And Davide
in the small.
Artist formerly known as David.
He's going to 3-bet. Like this. 4x out of position. This is fine. You would normally go a little bigger with a Peter in between, but Gary's more of a straightforward player, so this sizing is always going to be fine for both the hands and the bluffs. Gary having to call 117 more. If he knew his opponent had queens, he'd probably call here with 5s. Try and crack it. Get fully paid, but
as you know, you're going to hit a set in the flop 1 every 8 times. So it's certainly worth thinking about.
Bluff there.
Bluff there, just nods his head.
You will see.
We'll be on break when we see it, so I can take you at the back.
Well, Anton has certainly got a bit more chirpy since he won that pot. And maybe there's a chance before the end of the night we're going to see a clash of the titans between Anton and Roberto again.
I'm sorry.
If all the chips were going to go in, I would imagine that will be the chip leader for the entire tournament.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of chips on this table. Very different to the first table we showed where everyone was below starting stack apart from one player.
Different players. There's the 4 or 5 guys here who are going to make all sorts of plays. Now the 3-bet has become standard. Now I like this 3-bet from Ryan. Roberto is literally opening any 2. It just so happens he's got ace-jack.
Yeah,
and he knows he's going to be in position.
Yeah, I think Roberto should have fairly going to understand that Ryan's one of the players going to play back and ace-jack.
Not good enough.
Well, he said his hand's not good enough. He's not going to war. This is interesting.
So
he's not willing to war with the perceived stronger players.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think that's going on. But what you're saying here from Roberto, one of the reasons why he's such a good player is he can really change gears. You know, for all sorts of reasons.
How much change you
want? And I think part of what's going on, if you notice that all of the pots that he's been involved with, he has been the aggressor.
Yeah, he likes leading.
So he's not a great man for calling a 3-bet, you know, and he'll actually lay down stronger hands, whereas with absolutely nothing, as long as he's firing, he can play all sorts of hands.
Yeah, and he may perceive that he wasn't going to get 3-bet light there, so doesn't mind giving up ace-jack.
So it shows, like, again, you often hear players, when they get knocked out of a tournament, they'll often say, you know, a story will go something like, oh, that guy, he was betting a lot, therefore I had to do that.
Right.
And, you know, if you perceive someone to be a good player, well, they're often a lot more tricky than you might think. So you still have to examine the situation for what it is. and not have a kind of standard reaction of someone being loose. Mathematically, the thing is, cards can come in runs, and you know, people will change their style of play quite a bit if they're good players. So I would regard that as probably one of the biggest leaks in poker, of people saying, "Hey, that guy was playing loose,
Right?
therefore I had to," or some sentence like that. So maybe look
Have a
out
really
for that.
bad hand. Still come in.
Join the party.
Yeah. Bad hands win sometimes.
Yeah, he most certainly does have a really bad hand. Even money the 10.
Jack 7. Roberto, look at it, disgusted that he didn't smash it with his 10-3.
Very unlucky. I think Roberto's just locking up shop now. He's running so bad he can't make anything with the 10-3 double suited. That's such a bad and unusual hand. I don't even think there's a name for it.
The kitchens.
40.
Is that it?
Kitchens, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
There's a name for everything.
Not this time.
Yeah. Looks like the 2 rats are going to pick this one up.
The crabs.
The rats is better. I know the ducks and the crabs make like visually more sense, but size-wise, if we're just talking about size, mice are the smallest and rats are the second smallest,
Okay,
being
okay.
slightly bigger than mice.
I can get on board with that.
So are you a Brighton supporter?
I say, yeah, no, it's slightly unprofessionally. Just realised I haven't resold my tickets for Friday's game. Seems I'm up here, so you've noticed I'm logging into the Brighton Hove Albion website and putting my tickets up for sale.
Well, no, I was just thinking. I wouldn't have said anything except for the fact that you know, it's a poker player who actually is the chairman of Brighton Football Club. So
Tony Bloom, I'm sure
Tony
man you
Bloom.
know. But yes, I am a Brighton Hove Albion season ticket holder.
And it's a reason maybe to bet on Brighton from time to time, because
You bet on
Tony
Bloom.
Bloom, you're betting on Bloom, and he's one of the you know, one of the most successful, I think, sports bettors in the world.
You want to be on Bloom's side when he's having a bet. Always bet on his horses in his football team. There you go. You won't go too far wrong. As Ryan raises under the gun +1 with King 3 suited Johannes. 3 bets, but very small. This is more Swedish stuff. Come on. He doesn't bet 3 bet as big because he's off a short stack.
Razor, he's got it right. He's got it right.
This is because of his stack size, he doesn't have to 3 bet as big as other players would, because it's so less appealing to peel. And with a tight image.
Yeah, he has got the perfect image. This is something. This is a play, whether it works or not, which is really worth looking at, because sometimes you can just kind of blind yourself down. But Johannes has said to himself, look, you know, I'm not going to just leave myself the option of getting all my chips in some kind of hand. You know, I'm going to have some plays in there as well. So, you know, I'm really impressed with that play. I think it's partly down to the fact that we were slagging him off for being too tight. So maybe part of his
He's too tight. He's just tight for a Swede. He's letting his nation down. Come on. Let the continent, let Scandinavia down.
Swansea.
People expect, Andy.
Wales.
No, they do expect. Here we go. Ryan picks up a huge hand first to speak. 2 queens.
You up as well.
Now, Johannes just 3-bet the last hand, and he's now picked up King 10 suited. So I'm expecting him to call this hand in the hijack.
The last hand against the same player. I do like this play when you 3-bet the same guy 2 hands in a row. Most people don't, even if they're 3-betting light, they're not going to 3-bet as many hands light. Ryan this time will of course be playing. Just a question of 4-bet or to flat? I think this hand he's just got a 4-bet go with.
I think so. I mean, it's not like
Start with
Johannes has got a million chips. He's only got 500,000.
Yeah,
Three more
just over
blues,
30
Or
bigs.
two?
And he's not in position, so
3 blues.
I would regard this flatting with the queens here as an error.
Well, he does just flat.
Well,
Does keep in the king 10. 245 in the pot. And what, 8-6 deuce.
my hat's off. He knows more than I do.
Hard to get Johannes to put too much in here.
You two have got similar personality.
But see, I think Johannes after that, he was so quiet. And he re-raised the ace-4. As the blood's come up in him. And I think he might be suffering from pedalitis.
$50K the bet. Ryan all cool.
He's taking a risky line here.
Well, I don't think there's much point in raising here. You're only protecting what against an ace or a king, and you allow Johannes to keep barreling with a hand like the one he has, just one overcard. 8 on the turn is interesting.
And I suppose the other reason where this play makes sense is Johannes does only have, it's not a cash game, you know, he does only have 500,000 back. So if it all goes incredibly wrong, you know, Ryan is still going to have 1.1 million. So maybe he's thinking like that a bit.
Johannes is giving up for now, 7 on the river. There are some missed draws here. Ryan could potentially rep with a bluff. Value bet his queens. You may, of course, check and give Johannes one more chance to have a stab at it. But Johannes will have some hands that can cool down here. Ace King High, for example. And there you go, 150 to bet.
At least he's given him the opportunity. I would have liked even a bit smaller, you know, to at least give him some opportunity to shove. But it's small difference.
That should just be a fold for Johannes. So there are some missed draws, but some of them will be ace high.
He's given up. You can feel it in his face.
No shot clock in this event until nearer the money. Not to say that
I mean,
anyone's been excessively tanky. He is thinking about this. I don't think he's just wasting time. He's trying to get any chance he does have the best hand.
But let's be honest. If he genuinely is thinking about it, he's given away.
Oh, I think he's thinking about calling. I don't think he's thinking about raising. I think he's thinking, is there a way I can beat some hands? And there just aren't that many.
I don't.
Although this would be a great Holly if he did this and then raised.
Yeah.
Like, he looked so weak. Surely he must have it.
Yeah, I do think he's in an overthinking himself.
Oh. Don't do it. Oh,
yeah,
no, this is not
he's
good.
talked himself into calling here. I didn't think there was any chance of him calling, to be honest with you.
No, I can see where he's coming from, but he just loses to some of those bluffs. And if you lose to
seven,
some of the bluffs,
7 is the kind of worst card almost.
a
Apart from like 7 spades or something, you know.
Right.
It's
yeah, he loses to 7, 9, 9, 10. They've got their 7, 10 even. He loses to the king high flush, or the king jack of spades might bluff there and ends up winning at showdown.
I suppose the thing is, I mean, just one other thing to think about there is one of the reasons why Ryan called, maybe was that he regards Johannes as quite a weak player who's going to make some funky calls and funky plays, so he's factored that into his play, because we only picked up this table,
Yeah.
you know, these guys have been playing with each other maybe all day, you know, another 6 or 7 hours before this.
It's quite possible. I just noticed in the chat,
Oh, good.
we've now got not just dad, brother,
No.
sister, but we've got
Granny.
Now I don't know if it's true. We've got someone claiming to be his cousin,
Yeah.
Anton's cousin, and then we've got someone claiming to be Anton's boss. So I mean,
Okay.
but no stories yet. No
I want
embarrassing
from the
Anton
latest
stories.
cousin. I want a piece of information from you, which only Anthony would know.
Well, look at this. Anton with the aces this
with
time.
the American Airlines, the boots.
The Rockets. What else?
Well, interestingly enough with the aces, and I've argued this out with sort of various GTO players, I've said the aces have a particular feel to them. The reason being they're the best hand in the deck. So when people get them, they sort of almost feel, look, do something a bit, hey, I've got the best hand in the deck.
Look at this defend from Ryan. The best against the worst. 7 deuce.
You don't see that
offsuit.
every day, and there's a 7 at least.
Oh,
I don't know!
oh
My goodness!
God. Here we go.
Oh my goodness!
Just
now,
a question of how
if
fast.
Ryan finds a way to save some, don't check. You should.
Anton's checked back this board. Well, he might still get it. If he'd bet there, Ryan. Oh my God, Ryan's checked again. A bet now surely gets check raised, and then you would imagine Anton would call 75 into 107. Ryan surely raises here.
Ryan thinks he's hit pay dirt here.
Wow.
He's only called a deuce or a 7 is a bad river.
How is this pot so small?
Oh.
A straightening club on the river. Ryan checks, and Anton, you thought was just got a bit big here.
I like a bet of like 350.
I'll try and piece it together. He has ace of clubs. His opponent doesn't check call too many club draws, so he's going to feel pretty confident he's ahead.
Take a chance. You can take a chance.
Yeah, I think he's gone a bit smaller, 175 like this. And look at this. Somehow this pot's no bigger.
Oh, he's going to be very happy here, is Ryan. If you can never be happy when you lose a hand.
I mean, we shouldn't be peeling with 7 deuce, but if you're going to peel with 7 deuce and runs aces on a 7 deuce,
well,
try to lose that many chips.
Let's just think back now through all of the hands. I'm speaking to his whole family that he's played. Anthony does seem to have a habit of checking back the entirety of his strong hands.
I think on an ace 7 deuce rainbow, you're going to want to bluff that board so often. You've got to bet with some big hands, and a set of aces seems a reasonable one.
So it's looking to me like he has a bit of a pattern here, which I'm not.
I understand, checking back a set of aces is better than checking back at a set of deuces, for example, because more chance of your opponent having top pair, example. But you've got a set of aces, build a pot. We're so deep.
Well, if you think about it, when you've got the set of aces with a flush draw up there, the nightmare is, okay, let's say your opponent doesn't necessarily have an ace, so he won't call you. Because the ace is up there, the other guy is unlikely, and that's in your range, he's unlikely to continue heavily. So let's look at it, what the upside of potentially winning a huge pot when your opponent's flopped a flush draw or, something funky, yeah? I would think that's the main reason why you should, kick out there, because they're both so deep.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, James?
I think when you're deep, you should just be betting. I understand if we're playing 30 people playing poker, then I'm much more in favour of the check back. But when we play deep, look at this. Johannes raises ace 7 of hearts under the gun. Roberto flats the hijack, king 9 of spades. Oh man, Gary springs it, pocket jacks, and that should be the end of that.
And Gary's only showing ABC stuff.
Yeah, and this, might seem like a squeeze pot to Johannes, but there's just not much chance when he's open under the gun.
I have to be honest with you, Johannes should not be raising ace 7 of hearts under the gun with that stack. He's too, it's just too weak,
25 bigs to start the hand.
And you're always going to be out of position. The kind of hands that call you can have you dominated. You can be in so many bad positions.
You'll get there on the river,
if you really want to do something, stick it in.
Roberto's hanging around.
13 or 14 big blinds.
Roberto's going to peel the 3-bet against Gary with king 9 of spades. Again, I'd rather this against someone who can have a wider range, but it's not disastrous, especially not when that flop comes out. Baby bounce. And he calls it.
Double baby bounce.
That's why he's flopped a pair and a flush draw.
Raise flop if I bet.
And just as a safety warning, that doesn't mean you're bouncing one baby with each hand. It just means you've just recently had 2 new arrivals. Well, that's a fortunate card, I think, for Gary. The queen coming down.
So, and then the bluffs, so I've got no choice.
Roberto.
No, I would check it again if I would check it again if I was Gary.
So you need to call.
But he's decided to bet.
2 flush draws out there. Unlikely Roberto has them. I guess the rest is played out. So this is one of those bets from Gary who just bets here and then checks back the river.
But
yeah,
the
I'm with you.
reason
The checking back would be better.
it's against
true.
Roberto particularly, you know.
Yeah.
It's just he's so funky, and you're 100% can call a raise.
Could have been worse.
4 on the end, as I say, this probably go check.
No, I believe that. I was pretty sure Roberto was going to bet there, which I think that's a mistake from Roberto, funnily enough.
Yeah, against Gary, perhaps. Unlikely to bluff.
I mean, you think there's any chance that Gary has a king there?
He threw it pretty check back the flop. Probably doesn't. I think you're right. I think.
So I
lead
think,
the river.
yeah, I think
Against
he
Gary
leads
again.
the river, and
luck.
with his image, he might get called by a queen or something else, and then he can also define the size of the bet he's going to deal with.
Again, you're saying that's
Look what you've done to me.
you know, it's not. It wouldn't be a GTO line.
Reasonable
Because,
flop.
Gary would know. Well, if he
Yeah.
leads his kings, then I can always bluff in the river. But Gary's
But
not.
Gary is
linking on
not a
that level.
GTO player,
Exactly. So this is a spot where
he
Roberto
most
can move
100% is not going to do anything funky there.
Yeah.
He's showing no propensity to anything funky.
Well, we've got some information on Anton. Andrew Burr, who, again, hasn't been confirmed, claims to be his cousin. Says Anton
Allegedly.
says Anton has 3 nipples. I think we need proof.
Okay, how would we get that proof? And the other question I have is, are all 3 nipples operational?
How many of your nipples are operational, Andy?
I'm just
my God.
trying to throw a curveball at him,
We are
just to
getting-
see if he cracks and says, no, he only has 2 nipples.
I'm cracking.
I'm not his cousin.
Speaking of cracking, we
Sure,
are
I
heading
want a lot
towards the
more.
break. I'm going to ask you a
But-
question off this hand.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's a very important question that you should all pay attention to. Davide limps the small Johannes, the Swede, the crazy Swede. Looks down at
He is very short, so I think in some ways the best way to play this is to just not raise.
Interesting.
So I would regard it as a mistake here to raise.
I think,
Or if it
I
is a
think
raise,
Davide's
it's just
limp
double
jamming.
blind.
I mean, Davide does limp jam some hands, so I can understand the raise. But yeah, there is an argument for checking back.
And you play.
Even 20,000 more, you know, but if he raises any more than that, I'd regard it as a mistake.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're trying to say.
I just think
I was like,
Davide does limp jam some hands, so you've got to give him a chance to do that.
yeah, that makes sense.
You're wrong, Roberto.
Yeah, let's do it.
You having one, yeah? You having one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And that's a pretty small raise.
It's still, you know, he's so short, you know, any
We've all got
raise there
involved more
is
since we've had a few drinks.
it's huge, you know.
I mean, it's less than
We've all got
2.5
involved a bit
bigs.
more.
I don't think you can go any less than that,
Defending
really.
7 deuce and stuff like that.
Davide, of course, will continue with 5-3 suited to that
I've
size.
been doing that.
That's what he had on our aces.
I'm testing him. I'm making the raises a little bit bigger every time.
I would have folded it 7 for a
9-5-4. Well, he's going to get in trouble here.
You know, we'll find
They're
out.
going to get the chips
Yeah,
in.
he's defended 7-2, so there's no cut
It'll
off.
be,
But he has a
Offsuit.
cut off with the size of the sizing.
let's say he made his jam.
Right,
That's why I'm testing.
3x, he folds
You'll never
7-2.
find
He's checked, but it's going to be a check raise.
And the beer is making
Yeah,
the
maybe with the
sizing
stack sizes of play here.
get bigger and bigger. So.
Not bet size, but
Stack
might just
6
decide
after
to
the
move in.
break.
We'll
See,
try
that's
it, we can try it
40,000.
until
He's
we
not going to
find out
just
where that
call,
cut
so
off
he's
point
going to
is.
stick it in.
And then as you drink more, it comes back into play.
It's gone smaller now, so Davide can just call. But again, may still decide just
But what
to
the flop
raise.
was, I think I did reasonably well.
I would agree.
I like this.
Yeah.
I should have put you
Well,
on
this
7-2
card
and bet
seals it.
flop.
I'm glad it
now.
didn't pair up. My one, anyway.
What did it come 87 dudes?
Yeah, yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Davide's going
You
to
checked
put it
it.
in this time, even though I was wrong last time. No, he's checked again.
Well, he's going to check and allow
Yeah,
Johannes
you
to
bet
put it in.
big.
He's obviously,
Oh, yeah.
he's really actually hoping this just goes check, check, and then he knows
Then
5
the
is almost
flush
certainly
comes.
good.
Yeah, okay.
But you feel, is there any fold in him
Call
if
up
Johannes
to about 200.
pushes it?
No, he's not
In a
folding
couple
with
seconds.
the pair and open
Up to all in about 10 seconds.
some ace-x hands that are going to bluff because they've got a gut shot draw now. Maybe try and make him fold a 5 or a 4. Some spade draws.
If just for the students of body language, yeah. If you look, if you look a bit closer at Johannes, he looks very strong. He looks very strong. I mean, he's doing some of the breathing. He's doing a bit of the head movement, but it's very different. It's almost like slow. You can feel his head moving slower. There's no twitchiness to him at all. It all feels quite, you know, hey, I'm strong here.
Right, he's bet 45. Davide again, that sizing looks fine. Just
Well, I do think that's a bit too small because you're letting these hands in and they're getting the price. So,
and there it
there
is.
you go.
Straight
And he
on the
got the price. So I think he's just been a bit too tricky.
I think Davide should just jam here at the spot.
Oh, 100%. Like
Only 202,000 back, 244 in the middle. It's a card he's going to want to bluff some of the time.
And we're going to see Johannes doing the St. Vitus's dance here whenever Davide shoves into him.
It's a really tough spot when he gets shoved into. You know, Johannes can never have a 3 here the way the hand's played out. He never raises pre with a 3. He doesn't bet twice here with a 3 like that. So he never has a straight, and that makes it a good bluff spot for Davide. I think Johannes just has to call this one.
I feel for Johannes here. Definitely feel for him. But I would sort of say generally it looks like he's given away way too much with his body language generally. So he's going to need to look at that moving forward. Here it goes. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and
half.
10,
Quarter.
9,
8. 16. Trying to help you out here, Andy.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I think he just has to call here. He just doesn't really have any strong hands. This is about as strong as it gets. You have to call this bet some of the time. This seems like a pretty good hand to do it with.
And
not ideal having the king of spades. I guess you'd rather your opponent turns its flush
tough
draws.
man. I think it's just one of those things. He's getting nearly 4-1. So
well, it's 2 to 1 because he's only got 200. So it was 2 into 240, I think. So he's getting a little over 2.
200 into 744,000.
But the bet's 500.
Oh right,
Pot's
okay.
244 heading into. So he's got to call 202 to win. What?
You're much more. You're very good at this, aren't
It's
you?
almost like it's my job.
Yeah, it is your job. Yeah, thank you for that. I was thinking, God, that pot's a bit big. Where did all those chips come from? But look, on the plus side for Johannes, he is taking his time. You know, very rarely on the river are people betting without you being beaten at this point. You know, I mean that is one of the real statistics in poker. Not that it doesn't happen, but much less than you'd think.
All right.
So sometimes odds go out the window, and if somehow he can find a fold here, you know, I know I'm guessing. It wouldn't surprise me if Johannes hasn't played too many of these things. So this might be a real big deal for him, you know. I think he's decided. I feel like he feels like he's given up the ghost. He's going to put him in. Feels like he's going. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad call.
No. He's tried his best here. I think the funky mistake was maybe 4 straight, you know, and he was a bit too funky, you know.
Yeah, he was
on the flop, the
action.
25,000 bet. You know what he's now done is he's given the guy a price on every straight, which is too generous.
Well, quickly before we start this next hand, I'm going to try and fire this question at you guys because you only have about 5 minutes to the break. The question I want to know the answer to.
Oh my goodness, I'm very excited.
Now you've been waiting a couple of hours to hear this question. Outside Nottingham Castle, we have, of course, our Dusseldorf
Robin Hood.
You made it 42.
Look, I didn't even hear the question.
Outside Nottingham Castle here, just a couple of miles from our current location.
Sorry, I'm holding
There
back.
is a statue. There is a statue of a fictional character. outside Nottingham Castle. I want to know which fictional character that is.
No. Can we change it to who was the guy who was his religious advisor?
No, we can't.
God damn it!
But I want to know. I mean, anyone paying any sense of attention. I mean, to be fair, this is a pretty easy one. But who is the fictional character?
Is
the
it
statue
Maid
of
Marian,
outside of Nottingham?
Friar Tuck,
Outside of
Little John, Will Scarlet,
outside Nottingham Castle. If you know the answer,
the Sheriff of Nottingham,
and you have a real money party poker account,
right?
then please do post it up in the
Fair
chat.
same.
After the break, we will choose a winner from the correct answers, and that person will be awarded a 109 Party Poker Live
It's a
satellite
toughie.
ticket.
It's a toughie. Good luck out there.
Same.
It's brilliant. You'd be good on fastest finger first, wouldn't you?
What? Well, I have no idea what the answer is.
Roberto under the gun, 41,000 to play.
Good call.
Roberto says, good call, straight away as Ryan flicks it in with King 9 in the same suit.
No, Roberto's flying now. He's flying.
Anton with 3 deuce of clubs in the big blind. Ace, king, queen at the flop.
The 3 big stacks at the table.
And Roberto, sure, will just keep firing. That's all he's done all day. Ah, now the one time I think he might keep firing, he checks. Action checks
No, he's
through.
changed
Wow.
gear.
Okay.
He's changed gear, Roberto.
This is a card
He's
that's
the one,
interesting.
I'll take
Roberto now has a gut shot draw and a flush
Should
draw.
just
Will
check.
fire. Ryan, of course, with second pair
I'm
and the
happy.
flush draw with an easy
I bought
call.
you a beer and you don't even check to him.
I mean, do you know what? I mean, I think Roberto's doing a bit of change, roughly speaking, to talk and loose and playing a bit tighter.
Shall I take this off?
This is what you're saying about changing gears.
Yeah, I genuinely think that that's a certain amount of what's going on.
And let's see how he deals with this river card. Ends the hand with 10 high. And there you go. Does
missed.
just check. Ryan
You
checks.
must be-
Roberto's a miss.
You're lucky you missed, I guess.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, that was the one.
Running good.
You would have got like,
The jack of hearts.
you would have had 400. You raised, I fold.
Nah.
So, guys, there is a
put
statue
the little
outside
mini-rays.
Nottingham Castle.
I fold.
Is there a fictional character? What I want to know is who that fictional character is. If you know the
telling
answer,
you all this so you
post
play a
it
bluff.
in the
And I
chat.
call.
But only if you have a real money party poker account,
Oh, that was
because
the one.
after the break we will
That was the
draw
one
from
with
the
the heart.
That was
correct
the jack.
Jack was
answers,
good for me.
and the winner will receive
hearts,
a
yeah.
109 Party Poker Live satellite ticket.
That's being a bit greedy, though, I
With a
guess.
chance perhaps to spin that up into a Caribbean Poker Party seat. That's the one I'd go for.
And even I'm going to give a sort of
Oh, I'm big black.
musical clue
Oh. I thought it was
to
Go
the
ahead.
song,
Sorry.
and it goes, Little John walking through the
just raised under the gun
forest.
with that
Golly, what a
Raise
day.
under the gun.
Hey. It's from the cartoon version of that
Good
very
raise under the
story.
gun, I've been told. But
Aye.
More
So,
strong.
who was the blank at the
Looks more
beginning?
strong.
Walking with Little John.
it's all good. What's something you raising under the gun?
Just seeing what the answers come through.
Go
Brian
up,
Clough.
go up,
Look,
Dren.
sorry, you're not allowed to
Can't
give
speak
the
to
answer if you're one of the Anton family, okay? Yeah, there's just too darn many of you.
I'm rooting for the Anton family every which way. Gary under the gun opens. Anton flats on the small with Queen 10 off. Now, this is a spot I think against
Short-handed, isn't it?
perhaps a
after?
perceived tougher opponent might not do this, but he
25.
thinks Gary is going to play more straightforward
Only
against him.
5-handed.
Roberto again
He wants change.
healing
Do
with
you want
pretty
change?
bad hand to go three-way with
Six-0.
against an under the gun
There we go.
raise and a small blind
Yeah,
peel.
he's gone.
Happens
Still
to be
on the
live
hand.
with that king.
Still on the
Yeah.
table.
I think it plays 500.
But, you know what?
Anton checks, Roberto checks. Gary pairs his ace and he will just play this pretty straightforward.
Is that us, yeah?
Yeah.
Aye.
Break?
Aye.
35k the bet.
What's happening with this stingy then?
We take them off, I guess. I think.
Anton calls. We'll go heads up to the turn. Top pair against second pair. 7 rolls off. I imagine if Gary bets
What's
again here,
that?
which I expect him to do so. Really, Anton against
55?
Gary's playing style. Oh, the bet's so small,
All in.
55, but he snap folds, Anton. No
Cool,
interest.
Thank you.
Come on then, it's going to be shown.
Shut up. You've got enough advantages without me helping you.
Gary's quite right.
He is right.
Doesn't want to give much away, even if we're going to know in half an hour's time.